Hello and welcome to Ednews-TV. I am your host, John Ayomide. Today, our topic is one of the most critical and rapidly evolving geopolitical issues in the Western world, the escalating tensions between the United States and Venezuela. On January 3rd, the United States launched a military operations on Venezuela territory, capturing the president, Nicolas Maduro. The move to asset control over the country's oil resources. The operations have, of course, drawn condemnation from global politics, many governments, which again, they argue that this has violated international laws, raising questions about sovereignty, international law, regional stabilities, and the prospect for diplomacy. Today, our guest is Mr. Vahtang Maisaya, Georgian military and political analyst, political scientist, and doctor of political science. Today, we will unpack what is driving these tensions between these countries. Mr. Vahtang, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Just. It's my pleasure to be at your disposal. I'd like to just about express congratulations with season greetings, with a Happy New Year, all the best to our neighborhood nations, our neighbor just about people, and brotherhood people, and to all the world. Thank you very much, and to you, of course, for sure.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
Thank you. So as we're diving into this important topic, just the first question is from your perspective and from the perspective of international law, do you think the US have any legal basis to conduct this kind of strikes, or do you think it's good for United States to carry these actions of capturing a president of a nation, and where does this act stand based on international law?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a very tricky question because I like a dual just about formatted responses. From one point, we also just heard about from the United States and not only international community about just connections of Maduro with the narco cartels and international terrorism. And intentions are most violated, just about criminal activities, which also just stipulated, also just implicated by the international law. I would like to mention that Maduro also violated international law because Maduro also cooperating with a military, private military corporations, which has absolutely mercenary just classification. Mercenaries law will have like a three just about mercenary conventions against mercenaries activities, which also just violations heavily of the humanitarian international law. First in 1980 and 1999, and last it was accepted by United Nations 1999 as a special conventions about against mercenaries. And of course, from that point, of course, partially United States maybe didn't violate international law, but however, when you just advocated about president, or of course the Pacto or the Euro president of the sovereign nations, also just partially the violation. I would like to mention Maduro also violated international law. I would like to mention they violated law against even Georgia international law. Why? Because Maduro personally and previous his just about predecessors, Chavez authoritarian regime, they also recognized separatist regime in so-called South Ossetia and Abkhazia. And I'll mention that from the Georgian perspective, the Georgians, of course, and I can mention that Maduro also violated international law. So he also received and accepted what he had just deserved. What I mean, first of all, he opened a so-called embassies of so-called Abkhazia and so-called South Ossetia in Caracas. He also cooperated with about this criminal, just about cartels, criminal transnational, just organizations, and how it is a new term, by the way, non-state aggressive actors in just about Abkhazia and so-called South Ossetia. So we have considering these provisions. Of course, Maduro also not only violated international law, but also he also just conducted international, transnational, just about criminal activities. So that's why United States only just responded. Of course, maybe just about unvocally about not corresponding with the international law from one respect, but another one way. They also just responded with military engagements, with military just about actions. It wasn't just about full-time interventions, even that it was not done like Russia just now doing against Ukraine when they just intervened, occupied about more than 30% of the Ukrainian territories. They also just tried to just conduct regime change. They wish to conduct regime change, which is also just violation of international law. And also just it's also linked with a coup d'etat, military coup d'etat attempt. So I mean about Russians just intervention to Ukraine. So from this standpoint, this United States only just how to say taken away by they seized maybe illegally just about this dictator who just authoritarian leader of Maduro, but they did not just complete so-called regime change action. They did not even they wasn't deemed to just arrange a coup d'état against sovereign just about Venezuela government. Nowadays, Venezuela government also just appointed new president about Delcy Rodriguez, according to the constitution of the Venezuela. Of course, just Venezuelan just armed forces also just been conducted their missions as well as the law enforcement agencies, etc. And of course, against Venezuela, still also been just about active economic sanctions. Because why? Because Venezuela also just cooperating with Putin's regime about stealing, about to avoiding sanctions against Western community, which also just conducted in accordance to the international law principles and just about norms. So, having considered about short SWOT analysis, okay, well, yes, about the weakness and strong points of these actions, or just about just threats or just opportunities, I would like to mention that, of course, from the threats, yes, it's is a like a violation of international law, abdication of the political leader from one point. But for another step, about three reasons, I can just mention that the United States also just informs the international law. Because why? Because Maduro himself violated three times more the international law. I mentioned corporations with private military corporations like Wagner's group, Russian Wagner's group, which also just appeared in Venezuela. It's also just violations of the 1989 two conventions about just actions against mercenaries, international against mercenaries, which also the most biggest and most highest just violations of the criminal, just most highest international criminal activities in some one case. Second, they're also just cooperating with the narco cartels, which also is like a biggest transnational, just about asymmetric, just about
Yeah.
threat to
Mhm.
international government. Second and third, of course, Maduro also violated Western just communities, absolutely legal binding, just about sanctions against Russia, who is just a main aggressor, who's a main violator of the international law. I mean, mention about Russia violated 1970 United Nations principles of international law, violated about charter of the United Nations, etc. So we're not going to continue these violations. And of course, Maduro and just about Putin, they also been cooperating against Ukraine and waging about unjust war against this country. So this is about what I mentioned about 3 against 1. So in that case, well, yes, we can mention considering that's a violation, but for another case, we can mention that this also just restoration of the international law, of course, with illegal activities, but nevertheless, this international just community also just absolutely restore justice and international legal frameworks, and also just prevented more fostering transnational crime activities, which was conducted by Maduro and his regime.
Yeah. When we're talking about state sovereignty, and as you know about the international standard of state sovereignty, the recent development between these two countries, it also affected the neighboring countries, like in the Latin Americans and the Caribbeans as well. And when we're talking about the effect on them, most of these countries, now rise up and go against the policy of President Trump. How could U.S. policy towards Venezuela influence how smaller Latin Americans and Caribbean countries make their foreign policies? The decisions they make nowadays. How do you think these reactions would affect those kind of small countries around this neighborhood?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much. Very good question. Very good, very professional done question. Thank you very much. I would like to mention that first of all, these two countries, which also just Trump also blame in just about just having like shadow cooperation with narco cartels like Colombia and Mexico. The presidents also just express just readiness to cooperate with the United States administration, Trump administration, in fostering the joint report these so-called transnational just criminal activities. They also just express readiness for the states, but before they also had absolutely different just about statements regarding about Trump's threats and Trump's ultimatums to the Venezuela. Now the situation changed. So I would like to mention that real political just postures also been reshaped geopolitical situation in Latin America, in American continental. First of all, Trump also just declared just adherence to the Monroe Doctrine since to 1823. Trump mentioned that Western Hemisphere is a zone of influence of the United States, and rest about areas of this world community is just maybe take cares by another just about key actors of the international just about communities or world communities. But however, Trump also pushing ahead unipolarity world order in order just to fostering democracy, freedom, and etc. But with their own just perceptions, provisional case, with own geopolitical just about agenda case. Trump is very extraordinary just about politicians. He also just making very extra just radical steps, political radical steps. But however, he steadily just follow up his national just interest of its own countries. It meant most about survival national interest. He mentioned that the main idea of the United States is to just promote and to achieve the most just well adjusted and well done, I would say, survival national interest. What does it mean, survival interest? It's about, first of all, about to protect the United States physically from any just about physical aggressions, interventions, and even asymmetric threats. First, it's narco cartels and it's about mercenaries, it's about organizational crimes, and even just about so-called latent military threats, which may be just coming from Russia or China or other just maybe just nations, like how United States considering them as rogue nations, rogue states, like Iran, just North Korea, etc. Second, United States' main survival nation interest is to be supplied with energy security provisions, and energy security provisions about oil, gas, and raw materials, including about raw materials, so-called rare minerals. Rare minerals. Now the second attack of Trump also just focused on the Groenlandia. Why Groenlandia? Because in Groenlandia were discovered about 34 new just about minerals. So there's a west of abundant of the raw materials, which also just be necessary for Trump administrations. Why? Because Trump administration declared to promotion space new projects about moon space, project, about even Mars, just about project also been declared. And of course, all these projects, which about summarized values in about $5 trillion, as I just, if I'm not just about a wrongdoer, $5 trillion. They need them badly to get access to the rare minerals, to promote and to also support and to develop these space projects, which also just about a new one from a new just about new technological just about breakthrough from the just about space geopolitical provisional case. So this is about second just about survival nation interest of the United States. And third, which you also mentioned about to protect democracy, how Trump just about considered, also just about also being as third items or the third postures of the survival national interest of the United States. So this how Trump is going to just depend and protect these national interests by any means, how he considered, because Trump is a Republican Party. Republican Party is also just trying to develop and to promote a real politics. They apply to the real political agenda, unlike of the Democrats. And of course, real politics also just drives Trump to act in a real just posture provisional cases.
Yeah. So just for the last question, and I'm sure you probably know that recently President Trump, the U.S. seized the oil vessels that belongs to Venezuela,
Yes.
and this raised a lot of debate. That is this a natural resources motive? Do you think U.S. are just towards the oil of Venezuela? I mean, do you think this is a resource control? I mean, do you think U.S. is actually interested in the oil production of Venezuela?
I would like to mention that the United States depends on Venezuela oil about 40%. Well, the United States consumed about 40% of the Venezuela oil resources. So it's our number one country from where just oil been delivered to the United States. It's one question. So hence, of course, it's also just fight and war for oil, for sure. Like it was happening in Iraq, 2003. It's a real politics. From real political standpoint, yes, you're right. From just about legal, just about formal political standpoints, Trump just about pending that these oil were absolutely just about a deal of the just which also just impeded about sanctionary policy of the West against Russian Federation. So this is about main implications. That's why United States Navy also just forced and seized two Russians oil tanker, which also considered a shadow fleet. They have like a shadow fleet, which also try to avoid international just about sanctions, and it's also violations of the international economic law, international economic law, or just commercial law. International commercial is violation of international commercial law, and United States try to restore the international commercial law according to the principles and norms of the United Nations charters and according to the just about world community, just about name. So we have like a just about two-folded just about stick. We have two stick, one stick with a two just about ends. First, we have like a real politics. We have one stick, and second, we have like a formal politics. From real political consideration, yes, it's like a true just about interventions or just about just try to get acquaintance and to get monopoly over the Venezuela oil, which very just about very, how to say, important from United States energy security, just about considerations. From but second positions is also just try to comply with international commercial law principles.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. This was a great insight that you've given to us. Thank you very much
Thank you very much for the best questions and the best moderation.
Hopefully we can meet again. Thank you very much.
For sure, I'm glad. I'm at your disposal.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.